And we should be live, so hold on. Let's see if this shows up on YouTube. Okay, yep.
Yay.
It's live on my channel right now. Hey there, everyone.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
Yeah, normally this would show up on my channel, but I've been having some issues with streaming on YouTube, so yeah. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm not skipping an episode of Cool Capitalist Kids.
Nope. I'm not seeing it on your channel. Do I need to type in something?
I see it.
Yeah, you should be getting a live notification, and there's people in the chat showing up, so.
Here it is. I just pasted it in the chat.
So, hey, happy April Fools, everyone.
Well, I guess post April Fools?
Yeah, it's 2 days afterwards. No, it's just a really meta April Fools because it's April Fools in the fact that it's not April Fools anymore, but we're saying that it is April Fools.
It's April Fool's month.
Oh God, no! Not more than 1 day, please.
Well, if you were to take that approach, I mean, it would never really end because yeah, you could just say, well, this is a more meta April Fools.
This is April Fool's century.
Yeah.
It just doesn't end.
It's April Fools.
I mean, to be fair,
I'm tired of it.
Pretty much. Although to be fair, our world is so crazy that you could be forgiven for thinking this is April Fool's decade.
And yeah, pretty much. But
I got tired of April Fools on the morning when I got up and saw Shane Killian's Discord logo with the fake notification emblem over it.
Oh, that is brutal.
Did any of you see that that video of like it's an April Fool's video, but somebody created a fake trailer for like a Splatoon app, like a game on the phone. I think it was called like Splatoon Tropical or something like that.
Yeah, I think I saw something about that.
Yeah, the moment I saw that, I was kind of sick of April Fools.
It really doesn't take much, does it?
I don't know. I mean, if the joke is funny, I can usually enjoy it. I mean, there are some. I know that Blizzard. I don't know what they did this year, but they always do something that is just silly.
Diablo Immortal.
That was an out of season April Fool's joke. I don't think that counts.
We can count it if we believe Harden.
Well, apparently they believe it. I suppose that's really all that matters, which is unfortunate. Yeah, so let's see here. Earlier, before the stream started, we were talking about, you know, my video, the one I came out with, and how some people aren't really happy with what I made.
Because they think that you're being serious. For those of you who didn't see, Filthy Heretic put out a video recently, which, yeah, basically, the video was titled "Why We Need a State," and yeah,
and the whole thing was simply walking through the progression from Hoppian anarcho-capitalism all the way to full-on authoritarian totalitarianism. And apparently some people either thought it was serious or didn't like how I was representing the God Emperor Hop. Oh, I'm sorry, Hoppa. I'm sorry, Hoppa! Because you gotta overpronounce that last vowel for some reason.
I don't know, you can pronounce it how you want, but I do that mainly, you know, as a open letter to Hoppians, because that's one of the main problems with Hans Hermann Hoppe, is that yeah, he tends to lead people away from libertarianism at a startling rate. Like, people who become Hoppians will almost inevitably become monarchists or fascists. There's no one who goes Hoppian and then stays libertarian. And that's not necessarily an argument against Hoppe, but Yeah, it's simply a trend that I've noticed, and why I consider it personally to be a very dangerous set of beliefs.
I mean, at this point, we do kind of have a bias against hop, but it is very fascinating because it's the same way. It's the same thing with Nietzsche.
Um,
He is not. He is. His philosophy is not nihilistic at all. If anything, it's anti-nihilist. But for some reason, his beliefs, his writing, have inspired basically decades, even centuries worth of nihilistic beliefs and philosophy.
well,
And you have to.
it's not that his belief system isn't nihilistic. It's that what nihilism is has been changed, sort of the same way that the Marxists have attempted to change what libertarianism is. It's been
Right.
that's been done by a lot of these fundy groups. Because for those who aren't aware, nihilism, in the sense that Nietzsche or other existentialists would argue, like Albert Camus or whatever, nihilism was not a philosophy of nothing matters, so I can do whatever the fuck I want. It's that to each different person, ni- um, reality around them is meaningful because each individual gives it meaning. That's not to say reality is subjective. In fact, Nietzsche explicitly warned against taking that attitude to its logical conclusion, full solipsism, or as he referred to it, the absurdists, absurdism. But getting a bunch of we got a super chat.
Yeah, I see that. One guy, no plan ever, says hookers and blow for my goyest boys to get yourself something nice. Now I am back off to the crusades. Save some holy water for me.
Thanks.
Deus Vult, brother.
Yeah.
Liberate Constantinople.
Now, I just to clarify, I wouldn't personally consider myself a nihilist. I would consider myself morally an existentialist, but like that's not ethical existentialism, but like how I interpret cultural attitudes and how I apply them in my own life. I would consider myself. I have more existentialist attitudes in that regard. But
Yeah. Yeah. My point is, though, that you have. There is something known as death of the author, and I might be going a bit off topic here, where someone might write some one thing, but how people popularly interpret it is a completely different thing. I can't think of any examples off the top of my head outside of our immediate topic, but it looks as though that what Nietzsche originally intended and how people who read his works interpreted it and what the popular interpretation is are completely separate. I imagine the same thing is going on with Hop and Hoppians. I mean, you listen to his lectures, you read some of his articles, although there is a bit of that alt-right authoritarian thing stuff to it. It's fairly minor, whereas his followers just straight up become fascists, just go full fash.
well, that's
And
that's
so
not
I was sorry I wasn't finished.
okay.
So my question is like I think what's happening is that Hop is too close to his work that he can't see the bigger picture. He can't see what's going on with it. And there is something to it that he himself is missing that is poisonous to the libertarian movement.
Um, I was gonna say, yeah, in his recent lectures, he's been going more down the alt right path of like ethno nationalism. Well, if you read his works like Democracy, the God That Failed, or any of like where his ethical and philosophical ideas are derived from, that's more of a recent trend in his thinking. Well, at least in regards to borders. In Democracy, the God That Failed, he put that one of the main things about Hobbesianism, which leads people towards authoritarianism, is that he has sort of like a neo-Hobbesian slant on the state of nature. Like his idea of what a libertarian society would be like is essentially everyone's just a bunch of dope users who do nothing but sit at home all day and kill themselves, or a bunch of godless nihilists, and I'm using that term in the way fundies use it, not in the way existentialists do. But yeah, so his idea is that, well, we need a centralized body in order to enforce libertarian ethics so that we can have a libertarian social order, because he thinks that without that, you would have a bunch of well, as you pointed out in your video, parasitic ethics. That's the term he would use to describe it. What are parasitic ethics? Well, basically, it's anything,
Shut up.
It's anything he doesn't like.
Shut up. What parasitic ethics, what ghetto ethics are? Shut up.
Yeah,
they're what I say they are.
They're anything ranging from Stalinist communism all the way to modern liberalism, like the Democrat Party style liberalism.
I guess, and of course, I'm not actually telling you to shut up. I'm just, that's a joke I used in my video.
That's what you said in the video. But
yeah. Yeah, and one other thing, like, I can give Hop the benefit of the doubt in the sense that most of his ideas, they aren't proscriptions for his ideas. Like what's the term he used? I'm blanking on some of the terms here, I apologize. But in the Covenant communities, he strongly suggested that these communities, if they wanted to maintain themselves, have a set of rules and codes and all sorts of other things that you would absolutely need for a civilized society in general, then such a society would voluntarily become very traditionalist, very pro-family.
So basically, his arguments are basically the exact same arguments that statists use to try and justify statism, except it's, for one, he uses a few extra steps in his reasoning. He adds a few extra chains in the argument, so that so it's not so obvious right off the bat, or maybe he himself doesn't realize it. Personally, I'm not convinced. But yeah, so that his ideas are essentially just low-key arguments for the state, except he doesn't present them as if they are. Which is why libertarians who go Hoppian tend to start supporting monarchists. I mean, he's used the term monarchy. Like if you read Democracy: The God That Failed, there's a couple different chapters which, like, go in detail about how property owners of the Covenant community are basically just like
kingdoms,
feudal style serfs.
It actually
kingdoms, and yeah, everyone living on the property is a serf.
He even goes further than that in that he defends monarchism very heavily, like explaining like all the ways in which the monarchy has, in the ways that all the advantages that monarchy has over another, mainly because, like, in the monarchy, if the king raised taxes 0.01%, then the subjects would overthrow him, or how war in the times of kings and lords was more about outmaneuvering your enemy rather than simply killing them. And in fact, and he says that casualties were rare. And about how, and of course he does the thing about lower time preferences and higher time preferences, which still make no friggin' sense to me. Who came up with those terms?
Yeah, those have been confusing me ever since I started really getting into economics. But
whenever I talk about time preference in my videos, I will always say shorter or longer?
I think
because that's the term that they should be using.
I think I'm going to start doing the same thing, actually. But, yeah, essentially, that's the reason why you see so many quote-unquote Ancaps going monarchist or fascist. I mean, because it is a thing. Like, that's not... A lot of people have been pointing it out. It's just that they're not actually, anarchists in the sense that they reject political authority. They're very much in favor of political authority. It's just that they've read Hoppe and they've managed to convince themselves that somehow that is compatible with a individualist anarchist belief system.
And then calling us purists for calling them out on moving that way.
And that's something I've experienced is people saying, "Well, why are you criticizing the Hoppians? Stop being a purist." That's something I ran into back even when I was on Twitter. I'm not being a purist. It's just that Hoppe's not a libertarian.
Southern.
Like a year. I remember a year or 2 years ago, there was a meme about the libertarian to alt-right pipeline. One guy is entirely responsible for that. One guy.
But yeah, look at all the people who've started getting into Hoppianism. Christopher Cantwell, Love, Life, and Anarchy, True Dill Tom, That Guy T. Basically anybody who's ever...
Tanner Croson.
Yeah, Tanner Croson. He's a bit of a smaller, like only 700 subscribers or so. But, yeah, anybody who's ever taken influence from Hoppe, within like a month, generally, they start to become, they say that they're nationalists, or they, basically they slowly become fascists or monarchists.
Yeah, and we got a super chat from Todd Rankles. He says, I took Filthy's vid as a late April Fool's joke. I listened to it at 5:45 this morning. It was really good. What's not to get? And yeah, thank you for watching the video. I'm glad you enjoyed it. But yeah, it definitely is a late April Fool's joke. Actually, just before the stream started, I changed the title to include April Fools, just in case someone sees that video in August and thinks that's my actual opinion. It goes without saying that I don't agree with most of what I said in that video.
Yeah, I plan on doing a video about Hoppe. I mean, just obviously his arguments, like, as we've presented them, we have problems with them. It's just so far we haven't really made any arguments. Like, he seems to do the exact same thing that, like, I remember about a year ago I said that Hoppe was an ANCOM, and a lot of people, like, tried to turn that into a little mini meme, and to be fair, I didn't really explain myself. But he does the same thing that communists do, in the sense that he tends to create aggregates and generalize entire different demographics as to justify his authoritarian thinking. Like, a great example would be the recent ethno-nationalist trend. I mean, that's not something that he picked up and added to his beliefs. It's something which complements his beliefs quite a bit. It's just that, yeah, it involves explicit statism. But yeah, he argues essentially, like, in that case, that, well, anybody who's immigrating from these different countries, they have these specific economic preferences which, just based on their nationality, tend to drive them towards certain preferences and trends. And I'm just thinking, well, who the fuck said that? Like, how do you measure that?
He's projecting the government.
Well, I mean,
yeah. And that's the problem. He's projecting the government's actions onto the population, which is another big problem with his arguments. He tends to.
Well, I just want to talk on immigration for a minute there. I mean, I've heard the argument before that if we don't have some form of state, and of course they're Hoppians, so any form of social organization ever is a state. And if we don't have a state, then what's going to happen is the entire third world is going to depopulate itself, and the hive mind is going to congregate specifically in that one spot.
Yeah.
It is just going to be like literally Venezuela, Ecuador, Mexico, Colombia, freaking, I don't know, Brazil. They'll become entirely empty, devoid of people, because they're all going to one place.
Somebody mentioned in chat Stefan Molyneux. Stefan Molyneux, by the way, is another one. He started going Hoppian, and now he's like advocating for ethno-nationalism, essentially. But yeah, what I was gonna say, you cut me off, and now I'm having a hard time collecting my thoughts. But
I apologize.
well, it's fine. But yeah, that's the same general idea. Doesn't Hoppe support Trump? I think so, but I'm not entirely sure. We got a super chat from Heartless Soy Boy, by the way. But
yeah, there it is.
Yeah, Lysander Spooner, I'm not disagreeing. Molyneux, even before he went Hoppian, was a massive hypocrite. He would DM CA videos critical of him while arguing that copyright law was illegitimate. Like I
did he really do that? I've never heard that.
Yeah, he did.
Ah, that's
wow.
But anyway, what I was gonna say is that's the main problem with Hoppianism in Hoppe's framework as well, is that his arguments for not state authority, but justifying the covenant community and his explanation of the state. It's the exact same. It's built upon the exact same fundamental problems of statists arguing their point of view. The idea that people voluntarily created states, which is a self-contradictory position. The idea that individuals within the population influence legislation and not material resources, and the state's attempts to sustain itself. Not all these demonstrable different factors, which actually do essentially he equates society with the state. He's another one of those thinkers who's under the impression that the state was formed by society,
which makes about as much sense as saying that two parties voluntarily committed murder, which at that point it's not murder, it's assisted suicide. So saying that people created, so that's just elaborating on your point that people voluntarily creating a state makes no sense. I mean, there is no possible conception of a state that does not involve some form of aggression.
And I'm not entirely convinced that, and this is a big part of the reason why I'm not entirely convinced that Hoppe is being genuine when he says, because it's everything about his ideas seem to be basically just modifications of what at this point he loosely calls libertarianism. Like, his premise is, we need social conservatism in order to we need social conservatism to maintain a libertarian society. Well, what's gonna stop people from being not socially conservative in a libertarian society, and what's gonna just stop them from doing whatever is most preferable for them and coming to some average trend and behavior based on people acting in their own self-interests. See, the state is different from a government. The state is just everything is essentially just a justification for an arbitrary ad hoc justification for the last point that he made.
Which, of course, is simply not going to work. I think I hear a doggo.
Yeah, there's my dog in the background.
Yeah, so I think we've just about completely debunked Hop there. I think there is one. There actually is two more points I wanted to make. They slipped my mind for the moment. First off, on the topic of social conservatism, here's the thing. Like, I think most of us actually are fairly socially conservative. I know I pretty much am, but I genuinely don't think that. I think my ideas are best if you put them out in the market, in the free market of ideas. I think that they'll win out because I can use deontological ethics to justify why abortion sucks. I can use deontological ethics to prove why the family is best and empirical evidence to back that up. I don't need to get some other people to enforce that upon others because, well, the moment you need force to get people to agree with you, you're confessing that your ideas suck.
Which is exactly the problem. You need force to enforce a social order, but it's not libertarian at that point.
And it's also your ideas suck. And the second point I wanted to make, it slipped my mind again. God damn it.
It'll come back to you. Don't worry.
It'll come back.
Yeah,
this is just the other one I would. No, continue.
A slow day, I guess.
Yeah, it's been pretty slow, mostly because it's been a fairly busy week. It was a busy weekend for me, and I'm only just now starting to. Well, things actually haven't calmed down that much, but they're at least calmer.
Yeah, you'd think that I would, at the very least, be able to formulate my thoughts a lot better, but no, apparently ever since I went on hiatus, all that's happened as a result are the bottom of the barrel pseudo intellectuals who basically just exist to take pot shots at me at this point. I've taken that opportunity to make some underhanded and dishonest slights at me.
Yeah. I mean, you're going to be the most knowledgeable about this, so how about you go into it?
Oh, sure. Well, first of all, I mean, I think all of you have probably seen it at this point. Somebody mentioned earlier, actually, was asking me about this, the Rant Sona forced meme. And I consider it a forced meme because even though there is a Know Your Meme page, look at the amount of views that the page has. It's like only like 20,000 people have seen it, even though the page is like a week old at this point. So really, there aren't a whole lot of people that are getting into the whole thing, and if you actually look at the people who are spreading it around, it's very clearly politically one-sided, and it gets your noggin jogging a little bit. But that's not what I'm talking about. I mean that's for the most part I kind of enjoyed that. I thought it was pretty funny to dab on some of these retards. But yeah. So
I'm looking at this. I'm looking through the page right now, and I am so freaking jealous.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know. I tend to bring, I make people incredibly salty, and I don't even have to do anything to do that. I have the uncanny ability to mine salt like no one else on YouTube.
You have an ability. Yeah, you definitely have that ability. Like, you just piss people off, and I just don't have that disposition to be able to own the libs, as it were. It's just, I don't know what I'm missing, or even if it's something that I even want to be able to be doing.
That's another.
Is it?
That's another good point Manny made in the chat. Yeah, they're going after me, even though Filthy and Postal also mirrored the video and were featured in the video.
I edited the video. I made the animations. Yeah. I did that. And for some reason, he gets all the hate.
Good job, Heretic.
But,
I mean, that's my background. I made that.
But yeah, that was, like, literally 2 days after I uploaded my last video before going on hiatus from writing, so yeah, I thought the timing was at the very least a little convenient for them, but I didn't think too much of it. But yeah, so for those of you who didn't see recently on Nate the Voluntarist's channel, I was featured in a Q&A session with David Friedman, the David Friedman. I still can't get over how amazing that was, but yeah, because yeah, he was a big influence of mine early on. Um, but yeah, so I was asking him some questions, and he was disagreeing with me, and I sort of like lightly pressed on his responses. Um, he Dave, people are asking who David Friedman is in the chat. He's an author who makes arguments for anarcho-capitalism. He is the son of Milton Friedman, so I think that should you all probably know who that is. But yeah, so basically I was in a Q&A session, and I was asking him some questions about a lot of the things which I argue on this channel. He disagreed, or at least his answer was different than my position, and some of his answers, I don't think he necessarily understood what I was arguing. In fact, that was even made pretty clear, as it we were using completely different terms entirely. But yeah, so I asked him a few questions. He gave a few answers. It was pretty sweet. But so some of the the scum of the earth took that, and they're trying to spread that around like 10 minutes of footage from there. So basically just the questions I was asking him out of the 3-hour stream, and they're trying to say that was a debate, and that David Friedman was owning me in that debate, even though I wasn't really challenging anything he was saying, because it's not a fucking debate, it's a Q&A session.
One of the people in the chat is saying that they jumped on you because you're a white fuck. They're racist.
They probably are.
But so I didn't really think much of it, but now Jim, apparently some people started. He made a. I'm sure some of you people know who Jim Jesus is. He's
Little Jimmy.
Basically, ever since I opened my YouTube channel, there's this guy named Jim Jesus who's been. He's basically dedicated his entire Twitter page to talking shit about me. He's made like multiple videos, flat out lying about things that I've said, and he tries to start drama, basically, and trying to get people to turn away from me, even though I haven't really done anything.
And if I recall correctly, he tried to dox your family.
Yeah, he did. One of the mods in Dapperton's server, he started posting personal information about me, because I like shortly after the last summer, when I was fighting with Dapperton and I started to come around more towards Dapperton's side, Blue was still under the impression that I was okay with him for a little while there, so I started taking some recordings of our conversations in private, and also I took some recordings earlier on, from when the drama was actually, when stuff was still popping off, and I leaked those recordings online. The reason I was even recording early on in the first place is because I had a hunch that I was going to need those recordings, and sure enough, my gut was right about that. But so basically, hey, I don't know who just joined because I'm not looking at Discord, but anyway, so Jim basically, he created this little small archive channel just to upload those recordings, and he misrepresented that he misrepresented the recordings as if they were all taken while I was feuding with Dapperton, when the last two of me actually saying, yeah, let's fuck Dapperton up and just going along with him basically to try and get him to reveal some of his future plans. Yeah, he took that and tried to present it as if it was from the actual, like, when I was feuding with Dapperton, in order to make it look like I was uh, against him more so than I actually was, or that I was still feuding with him. So yeah, I called him on that, and he, like, within 2 comments, starts posting personal information and devolves entirely into character assassinations, and that's he's very formulaic. If you're on his shit list and you start disagreeing with him, that's what he'll do. He'll start throwing around personal insults and yeah, just generally just trying to change the subject, and he'll try and get into, like, he'll go to his Discord server and he'll start telling people to go into whatever server you're in and to start spamming, like, insults as well, to both make it appear as if there's more people against you than there actually are, and to make it harder for you to respond to each point at a time. He's a very scumbaggy person. I don't think that he's.
I remember.
What were you gonna say?
I remember asking him on Twitter once, like, "What is it? Why did you, like, what's your beef with SO? How did this start?" And what he told me is that you deleted one of his comments on one of his videos once. Which, I mean, like, considering the amount of effort, time, and just energy that he has put into trying to get you specifically, you would think that, you did something terrible to him, like you raped his daughter, or killed a family member, or kicked his dog. You just did something terrible. But apparently that didn't happen. According to Jim Jesus, you just deleted a comment on a video once.
The dude's completely autistic. Like, he and I say that like in the literal sense. Like, he gets something in his head and he obsesses over it to a almost compulsive degree. And it's not just
the problem with calling him autistic, though. This is beyond autism, because the thing about autistic people is that when they get the idea in their heads and become obsessed with it, it continues for 6 months. After 6 months, they move on to something else.
Yeah, before...
This has been going on for years.
Yeah, before me, like, you can go back and... Cause he had his channel since, like, 2008, I think. But yeah, if you go, like, before I created my YouTube page, all of his videos were just taking, like, dishonest pot shots at Shane Killian for, like, 2 years, and then before that it was Stefan Molyneux. Basically, all he's done is latch on to people and obsess over them to a chronic extent.
And eventually he'll move on to someone else.
Yeah, someone else will come along, which draws his ire, and then he still talks about Shane Killian every once in a while and Stefan Molyneux. It's just, yeah, they don't focus their entire Twitter feed and all their uploads on them.
That's actually really unfortunate. That's what that is.
But yeah, he's been going around. He created this video that's about 10 minutes from the Q&A stream I was in with David Friedman, and he tried to present it as if it was a debate. So right away he's mischaracterizing what actually happened, and that's very important, because by characterizing it as a debate, like, I didn't respond to any of the things he said, but by doing that, he's creating the impression that I didn't respond to the things he said because I didn't have a response to them. I wasn't able to respond to them. And that's simply not true. I mean, if we were to go over some of the things David Friedman said, I strongly disagree with him, and I have I have actual arguments against the things that he said. For example, the whole is-ought correlation with the non-aggression principle. That's not what people arguing for the non-aggression principle are saying. they're not saying that that acknowledging ethics is just that means that everyone will be ethical actors in society. You know, they're not saying, oh, well, yeah, we know that this is an ethical behavior, so nobody's going to be violent. That's a common misrepresentation. And he also attempted to argue from consequentialism for his ethical system. You know, okay, well, if might makes right, you know, the logical conclusion of consequentialism, then you don't really have an ethical system. In fact, what you have is not really much different from the state on grounds of coercion. So I have actual arguments, and I didn't present any of those because, well, it was a Q&A session, and it was about David Friedman's answers.
Well, my problem with... Sorry, I thought you were finished.
You can go ahead.
Yeah, my problem with consequentialism, or at least arguing capitalism from a point of consequentialism, is that fundamentally, like, David is right that from a consequentialist point of view, anarcho-capitalism is preferable, it's optimal, it's something that will greatly benefit literally everyone. But there is no real moral, ethical consistency, no universality. And thus, in order to debunk that argument, all you have to do is make the argument, I do not think that anarcho-capitalism will benefit me specifically because of these reasons. Now, it doesn't, as long as those reasons make sense, then yeah, the argument actually is debunked.
Nice.
It's really not that. It's really very easy and ultimately subjective.
Somebody asked what I thought of the flagpole argument, which David Friedman made. Which, for the record, one of his main points, one of his explanations for why he didn't support the non-aggression principle, a scenario he provided in the stream, was imagine if you're living on the 11th floor of an apartment building and you fall off your balcony, and on the 10th floor someone has a flagpole which happens to be sticking out, and you grab onto the flagpole. Well, that's their property, and they tell you to let go of the flagpole because you're infringing upon their property. And basically, my response to that was my response to that is essentially what I was explaining on the stream. That's not how the NAP is thought of to work. In that sense, if we were to take an ethical system based around natural law and the non-aggression principle, in that scenario, it's not necessarily unjustified, it's just that, there's a bit of nuance there, so if you don't let go, well, then you can be taken to, then you can have arbitration with the person telling you to let go, and you would be found to be justified in that situation, because if you were to let go, you would literally die. So,
I think the overwhelming majority of people would just use the flagpole, swing into the 10th floor person's apartment, and just say, like, I'll pay you $100. I'm leaving now.
Yeah, I mean, I could have gone into, there are more arguments than just, that's not how the NAP works. I mean, that's a total whataboutism scenario as well. I think if you literally fall to your death. If you're falling to your death, how many people, if you were to grab onto something hanging out from their apartment, are going to say, yeah, fuck you, I want you to die, you should just let go right now. That's not a very real, that's not a realistic scenario, but
that's just ridiculous saying someone's tire blows out, the car comes in your yard, and then you shoot them for trespassing.
And I could have said that, but again, I wasn't trying to debate with him. When I mentioned the arbitration, I was simply trying to point out that the NAP is not as simple as no one's going to initiate force against another person. That's not how libertarians arguing from natural law think that the world would work.
A lot of critics of the non-aggression principle often argue as though as though the absence of a magical force field that prevents anyone from aggressing against anyone ever is somehow proof that there is no non-aggression principle.
Well, you do have some Ancaps who don't explain it very well, too, though, who will say, someone will say, what about robbers and thieves and all that? And people say, well, the NAP will deal with that. And that's not, I don't think that's the best way to explain how to deal with bad people in an anarchist society.
Yeah, which is unfortunately always going to be the case, that you're going to have people who aren't going to be able to explain that. It's just that I think a lot of people have a hard time grasping that, for the most part, the non-aggression principle won't affect their lives at all. The only time it really matters is when you have a dispute with someone else and you need to figure out who is in the wrong.
But basically, the point that I've been trying to get at is, yeah, that's not how that wasn't a debate. That was simply just a Q&A session. And when I was going on, I was trying to further elaborate my position. And this is being represented as if it was a debate. And yeah, you got a bunch of people spreading it around saying, oh, ESO got owned in this debate. Yeah, except it wasn't a debate. And that's an important distinction to make, because yeah, I wasn't trying to respond to anything that he was saying, and I wasn't attempting to make any arguments. I have arguments, but I wasn't making them there. And but so after this, after I think it was that Lero guy, you know, that guy from Singapore who is
I think I know who you're talking about.
He's the one who his position is really confusing. Just like the other night, he was talking about how our video on oil, the truth about oil and the US dollar, that video that we did last year, that opened his eyes to the problems with central banking and how counter economics would save the world.
Yeah.
And he generally makes a bunch of posts about Marxism. Like, I think he at least was at some point a Marxist. He's that guy. But anyway, so he posted that video in my server, and so a bunch of people from my server went to that video because, you know, a lot of people were actually watching the David Friedman Q&A session, and they know that was a Q&A session. So, you know, they went to Jim's video knowing, well, okay, he's dishonestly representing what happened. In fact, and then the even funnier part is that I was watching that video, and he cut a lot of the things that I was saying short. So he was trying to represent it as if it was a debate, even though it wasn't a debate, and he didn't even actually, you know, accurately. He cut off some of the things I said so that it wasn't completely in its context. I mean, I made it very clear that I was, you know, only trying to clarify. I even said so in the stream, and he cut that part out. It's very fucking, I mean, a lot of this stuff with Jim is hilarious, but it's very fucking infuriating at the same time. But anyway, so somebody put that video which he uploaded in my server, and a bunch of people from my server went to dislike the video because they knew exactly what fucking Jim was doing. And so Jim is trying to go around saying that I'm organizing a dislike raid against his video. I'm organizing a raid against his video to get people to spam the dislikes and ratio his ratings. And
that was after, like, dislikes, by the way.
Yeah. Because, yeah, it got ratioed to shit. Because, yeah, I think even his own subscribers weren't really happy about that. But yeah, so he's going around saying that without evidence, of course, because I never said this or even suggested this, that I was telling my audience to go dislike his video. And
even if you were, like, so what?
Well, the reason why is because that's something which I've complained about quite a bit, that Marxists do it on Twitter. They do it through Twitter or Reddit. They organize these little raids, and they've done it not only on my videos, but they've done it to Mr. Dapperton. They do it on my videos a lot more, but yeah, they've done it to Mr. Dapperton before. He made a video about a year ago about some Twitter poll which he created, and then a bunch of Marxists started spreading it around and manipulating the ratings. He expressed problems with it. The problem with it, he didn't articulate it very well in his video. He said they're creating an echo chamber, but what it does is imagine for a second that you're a completely new person who's never seen the video before, and is just finding your channel for the first time. And when they click on your video, they see like a 15 to 85% like to dislike ratio. They may not even watch your video at that point. They're just going to think, oh, well, the majority of the people who watched this video didn't like it, so obviously it's a bad video. It's sort of a cognitive bias which happens. But, yeah, so that's the reason why that's the reason why when they do this I hide the ratings, or why I call them out in pinned comments. It's because, they're doing that deliberately, specifically so that people won't watch the video, or at the very least they won't. They won't. They'll be more critical of what's being presented there. They'll think that I'm wrong from default.
Yeah, pretty much.
But
anyways, I think we should start wrapping this up.
Okay, sure.
Although someone in the comments wants to know what you think about John Stossel.
He's all right. I think that yeah, his I was reading something Lysander Spooner just posted, but yeah, I think John Stossel is all right. He's I think that his ethical arguments are shit, and he should start putting more emphasis on ethical arguments and not just economics, because yeah, he basically, he's like one of those capital L libertarians, and
oh boy,
it's very obvious as to why he doesn't put emphasis on ethical arguments, because taking his ethical arguments that he claims to believe into their logical conclusion, he would have to reject the Libertarian Party. But as for, I think he's kind of like Fee's YouTube page. He's a very good resource for anyone who wants like basic economic arguments against statist policies, or statist claims about economic history, like minimum wage laws, or the argument that child labor was abolished because of the state, and without the state you'd have a bunch of children working in factories. But yeah, so the last thing I was gonna say is, well, I wasn't done on talking about Jim, but basically he started spreading this narrative around that I organized this raid, and that another thing is I left a comment under that video, and he blocked me, by the way, which he's claiming that I'm a hypocrite because I supposedly said that he shouldn't block me, when all I really did was repost the comment in Dapperton's Discord server to so everyone else could see it. I wasn't saying he can't block me, or that he shouldn't block me, or that he's even a bad person for doing so. In fact, I block plenty of trolls. That's not something which I'm afraid to admit. But yeah. So I posted this comment. And he starts spurging out. What are you saying? You saying that people can't block you? That's hypocritical. I didn't say that. And then it's still up in the shilling section of his server, by the way. He got absolutely fucking chewed out in there. It was pretty glorious. But yeah, so you've got a bunch of other people like a small echo chamber trying to spread around the idea that this is a debate, and I just wanted to clarify it wasn't a debate. And I was gonna make a video on this, but I'm glad today happened to be one of the days that we were streaming Cool Capitalist Kids, because yeah, now I don't have to do that, and I'm pretty happy about it, because yeah, that's one of the that's very infuriating how I go on hiatus to, you know, clear my mind, and then all this shit starts popping off on social media, which puts a lot of pressure on me to respond to it.
Yeah, I mean,
on hiatus.
pretty much. And you clearly had a lot in your mind because 70% of this stream is just you talking.
Yeah, I mean, I have had a lot to say, and it's I'm glad that I've been able to here. We really need to start doing more news stuff, because I haven't really been checking like Free Thought Project and Zero Hedge. There's a bunch of stuff going down, but yeah, so this stream was you know, we're basically just shooting the shit here. Like we're just talking, because I mean, I checked Free Thought Project, and I've checked some of the stuff recently. I haven't been, but like right before we did the stream, like a half hour or so, and there doesn't seem to be, you know, there's a bunch of police brutality stories, but nothing, you know, we've spent like the first 20 or so episodes of Cool Capitalist Kids talking about police brutality stories. They're really all the same, so that's the reason why we don't talk about those anymore. But they're happening.
Well, I just opened the Free Thought Project, and the first article headline: "Swatting gamer gets 20 years as the cop he had killed an innocent dad walks free."
Yeah.
Pretty much.
That sounds about right.
That sounds normal for the police state.
It's
but
not.
anyways, yeah, we should wrap this up because I gotta jump.
I got a good idea for next stream.
What?
We could talk about. Remember that article I showed you how Andrew Yang wants to pay the UBI?
Oh, sure.
We were talking about that earlier. Was it? Did you see that, Filthy? I should send it to you later, so.
You sent it to me. We talked about that.
Yeah. What you think of? Yeah, that would be a good discussion on how disastrous that would be for the market.
I mean, the conclusion I came to when I was looking through that is that, like, I was thinking about that old short story, I Pencil, about all the technology equipment that goes into making one pencil. And I concluded that because of every stage of production, from the extraction of raw materials all the way to the finished product, is going to be 10% more expensive. That means the pencil, that is to say all the products, goods, and services you're going to buy at the store, are not going to be 10% more expensive. They're going to be 10% more expensive after being 3 times more expensive, because every stage of production being made more expensive, the producers have to pass on that cost to their customers.
I was sitting there doing math, and it came out to all products will go between 200 to 400% more expensive with UBI in effect.
Damn.
It'll, and the actual increase in people's wages with UBI won't really be that significant. I mean, the average person might see a 1/3 increase in their pay from UBI, but their actual take-home pay their actual real wages will be cut by half.
Basically,
basically,
we're gonna make prices go up so that we can make the value of the dollar less, and that's a good idea, apparently.
Yeah, but anyways, we should start wrapping this up.
All right. I mean, that sounds good. We spent this stream ranting quite nicely. There's not really a whole lot to talk about other than that. But I'll be back probably towards the end of April, because I've started like recently. I want to take some more time, so after this I can clear my head still. Like I still am having a bit of a tough time compared to what I used to. Sitting down, finding the motivation to actually write good scripts. But I'm gonna return, and when I do, one of the first videos I'm gonna make, aside from my rant about centrism, is going to be on Andrew Yang and accelerationism.
That'll be fun. I've got my next video is going to be about vaccines and anti-vaxxers, more specifically anti-vaxxers.
All right.
I need to come up with a better term for those people, but I'm absolutely certain that there is some shady shenanigans going on there.
Oh,
and then afterwards, I think I'll do another. I don't know if I should do another tyranny score video or not. I've been looking at other candidates' websites, and Andrew Yang's is by far the most fleshed out.
You should do one about Donald Trump.
I wanted to, but his website doesn't have anything I can work with.
You can work with the things that he's done.
Yeah. And I can work with the things he hasn't done.
But
it's gonna be tricky.
Spooner mentioned Kenya's fertility rate. Yeah, don't forget to mention that when you make this video, that the UN handed out vaccines in Kenya, which sterilized half the women in their country.
Oof. Yeah, I did not know about that, but that is absolutely necessary to know about.
Look on the bright side, they'll have fewer people living in igloos.
That's true.
Alright, so...
Alright, so everyone, thank you for stopping by, and we'll see you next time on Friday.
Alright, see ya.